When I bought my home on the far side of Willow Creek, I wasn't looking for trouble. I wanted a piece of place where I could work from home, tend to my small garden, and enjoy my weekends without someone dictating the color of my mailbox. Unfortunately, my property fell inside the jurisdiction of the Everwood Estates HOA, a notoriously overbearing organization that loved to flex its imaginary muscles. For the first 2 years, I kept my head down. I paid the dues, which at the time were a tolerable $80 a month, attended the occasional community meeting, and didn't complain when they sent those passive-aggressive newsletters about keeping up the neighborhoods. Visual standards. They left me alone, I left them alone. Then came the hike. One Thursday morning, I opened my mailbox and found a thick envelope with the HOA's gold crest. Inside was a letter stating that due to increased operational costs and the necessity for infrastructure upgrades, the monthly dues would increase from $80 to $400 effective immediately. That's a 500% increase. No prior discussion, no vote, no warning. I marched down to the HOA office. A bland beige building at the front of the subdivision. Inside, 3 board members sat behind a long table like a court of judgment. The president, a sharp-faced woman, named Marla, gave me a tight smile. "Ah, Mr. Carter," she said, glancing at a clipboard. "Here to pay your updated dues?" Updated. "This is extortion," I said, dropping the letter on the table. "You can't quintuple our payments overnight without consulting residents." Marla didn't even blink. "We can. Section 9, subparagraph C of the HOA Charter gives us full authority to adjust dues as necessary." "And what exactly requires?" "That much money?" I demanded. She leaned back in her chair. "Security upgrades, landscaping improvements, and executive stipends." "Executive stipends," I repeated, my voice flat. The treasurer, an overweight man in a golf shirt, added, "Our time is valuable. The community should compensate us appropriately." I walked out before I said something I'd regret. But my blood was boiling. The research phase I wasn't about to roll over and let them rob me. I read the entire 146-page HOA charter cover to cover, highlighter in hand. That's when I stumbled across Section 14, Clause 7, dusty little paragraph, about utility infrastructure rights. It turned out that when Everwood Estates was developed 20 years ago, the builder struck a deal with the local power company. Instead of each home getting its own dedicated transformer, the HOA's clubhouse and security gates were tied into the same feeder line that ran through my private property. The easement agreement stated that I had to allow the line to cross my land unless the HOA violated good faith financial obligations to the residents. Guess what? A 500% arbitrary dues increase was a breach of good faith, setting the trappee, an electrical engineer by trade. I know my way around circuits, power distribution, most importantly, how to shut it all down without causing damage. I spent a Saturday morning inspecting the transformer on my property. Sure enough, one thick cable branched off toward my house and another headed straight toward the HOA's precious clubhouse, front gates, and security lighting. I didn't act immediately. First, I documented everything, photos of the transformer, copies of the easement agreement, and screenshots of the dues hike letter. If they took me to court, I'd be ready. Next, I waited for the perfect opportunity. The annual summer gala, a ridiculously overblown event the HOA hosted every June. They rented a live band, set up buffet tables, and kept the clubhouse lit up like a Vegas casino until midnight. The board always used it as a PR stunt to brag about how well-funded they were. If I was going to make my point, that was the night to do it. Lights out the evening of the gala, I could hear the faint thump of bass from my porch. I grabbed a flashlight and my insulated tools, then strolled over to the transformer box. I waited until about 9:15 p.m. It's late enough that the party was in full swing and the sun had set completely. A couple of quick, careful maneuvers later, the feeder line to the HOA's facilities was isolated. I didn't touch anyone else's residential line. The outage would hit only the clubhouse, gates, and all the floodlights that kept the HOA office looking important. Seconds later, The neighborhood was treated to a delightful sight. The once glowing clubhouse plunged into total darkness. The music cut mid-chord, replaced by confused shouting. The security gates at the front froze open, their keypads dead. Garden spotlights blinked out, leaving the pompous Everwood Estates sign in shadow. I leaned against the transformer and just listened. The chaos was delicious. The scramble Marla's shrill voice carried all the way down the street. "Check the breaker. Check the breaker. Why isn't anyone calling the power company?" They did call. I know because 10 minutes later, I saw the white utility truck roll up. The lineman, a guy named Steve, who I'd chatted with before, got out and shook his head when Marla came storming up to him. "This isn't a utility fault," he told her. "Your feed was shut off at the private transformer, property owner's jurisdiction." "I am the property owner," Marla screeched. "No, ma'am," Steve said, pointing right at me as I stood with my arms crossed. "He is." I walked over slowly, savoring every eye in the crowd turning toward me. "Evening, Marla," I said. "Looks like you've got a power problem." "What the hell do you think you're doing?" she demanded. "Exercising my rights under Section 14, Clause 7, I said calmly. "The HOA breached its good faith obligations with that ridiculous dues hike. The easement is void until you correct it." Her mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. "You can't just—" "I can," I interrupted. I tared. "And I did? Now I'd be happy to restore your power once the dues return to their original amount and you issue a written apology to every homeowner." The standoff for the next hour, they argued, threatened, and even tried to guilt me. The band packed. Up and left. Guests stumbled around in the dark with half-finished plates of food. The gates stayed stuck open, allowing a couple of random cars to roll right in and cruise past the powerless clubhouse. Eventually, the treasurer came over, sweating profusely. "Look, Carter, maybe we overreached. Let's talk numbers." "I think the numbers are pretty simple," I said. $80 a month like before, no special executive stipends, and while we're at it, a full financial audit of the HOA open to all residents. "That's outrageous," Marla yelled from a few feet away. "No, Marla," I said, my voice steady. "What's outrageous is using your position to line your own pockets. You're done here. It's victory by 11 p.m. with the gala completely ruined. And most attendees gone, the board caved. They signed a temporary agreement reverting the dues back to $80 pending a vote at the next community meeting. They also agreed to hire an independent accountant to review the books. Only then did I reconnect. The clubhouse flickered back to life, but it was too late to salvage the evening. The one smug board member slunk off into the shadows, avoiding my gaze. Over the next month, the audit revealed all sorts of questionable spending lavish dinners, charged to the HOA card, consulting fees paid to board members' relatives, and even a vacation to Hawaii labeled as a security conference. Residents were furious. At the next election, the entire board was voted out. Marla left the neighborhood altogether within 3 months. Epilogue today. Everwood Estates is run by a new board, one that actually listens to the residents. Dues are fair, finances are transparent, and no one tries to pull any surprise 500%. Hike status for me. I still keep an eye on that transformer, just in case anyone forgets that power, both literal and figurative, sometimes rests in the hands of the quietest person in the neighborhood. And every year when the summer gala rolls around, a few folks give me a knowing nod, remembering the night the HOA learned what darkness really means.